Mics are live. Everyone hear each other?
I'm just looking at the screen right here, and I apologize right off the giddy.
Oh, I don't have it turned, huh?
A lot of wires and equipment. Dude, we travel around, 20,000 miles on this thing a year. All this equipment just jiggling
Just
around.
rattling
like,
around
I
in the
did.
back all the time.
It's amazing.
We
We literally got back from the Classic, and this whole curtain system was completely down.
And we got to the Classic, and it was down.
Yeah, we had all our equipment there. We had some guests lined up, but dude, it was a Classic. It was absolutely just madhouse. You know how it is, right? And this whole curtain was down, and it like scratched the heck out of the wall behind me here. So I had to repaint the walls and do this and that. But you sat down and said, "Oh, this is intimate," and it is. It's like a little intimate setting of the Bilge podcast. I apologize right off the giddy because I'm super blended in with this lime green, Googan green, on a green background here. What are you doing?
Did you turn that color green?
No, it was just that's the feeling I have.
That thing feels great on me.
Right.
Love it.
It was like facing towards that. So the biggest issue we learned last year is that when I have that AC on, it dumps down here. Feels great, right? But the mics pick it up, and it's a pain to edit out. So.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming by. We just got done cooking some turkey nuggets. I shot a couple turkeys yesterday, and we fried them up after fishing today. And I know you spent some time in the office there at House of Outdoors. What is it, like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from here? About an hour. A little
hour
more.
and a half.
About an hour and a
in
half,
rush
yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
I think I left at 4, stopped and got gas, and got here at like 6. So
Nice. What time did you get off today? 4?
yeah, I left
Yeah.
at like 4.
Nice.
But
Anything special going on?
man,
at work?
typical Monday.
Yeah,
you
what
know?
is a typical day at House of Outdoors for Trey Epich?
What is House of Outdoors?
Well, so House of Outdoors is the holding company for Googan, Bass Mafia, Ducks Waterfowl, and Bucks Hunting Co.
Wow.
So formed January 1st, 2021, after private equity came in and purchased Googan. And it was basically Googan Baits, Googan Squad, and then Made by Influence, which was like the screen printing and embroidery business. And then since then, we've acquired a couple brands, well, 4 brands. Shelved one of them for the time being. But
right.
yeah, so we're, typical fishing company. It's typical day, though. If you ask the Googans, we just sit in meetings all day. But no, there are a lot of meetings. But that's like that is like every corporate, job. But no,
Communication's huge.
well,
dude,
that's honestly
at that level.
I took over as CEO in January, and one
Yep.
of the first things I did was institute like a Monday morning all hands meeting where like everybody
Smart.
in the company gets on a call together. And
Yeah.
like, the first week, people were like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that guy worked with us," and it's just like connected so many dots,
Sure.
and it's
Yeah.
been
Sure.
Good.
improved a lot of communication. So, but yeah, no, it's been good. This is my
Wait.
first podcast.
Oh,
so
nice, dude.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
You're really young to be a CEO in the fishing industry.
Yeah, and if I screw it up and I get fired, at least I could be like, I'm 36-year-old,
got
hopefully
some
at least
time.
36,
Yeah, you got some
failed
time.
CEO at that time. But yeah, I mean it's been a wild ride. I came over, I was like the first person hired by House of Outdoors. Now there's some legacy employees from like
Right.
Fish Media and like Googan before transaction, but yeah, I was like the first guy that they hired. And so like day one, we were just hitting the ground running and trying to develop and design as much
Yeah.
product as possible. It was
Yeah.
like coming out of COVID, or COVID was still going on in early 21. So it was just, everything was, fishing tackle was like the hottest thing ever. So that's like, we just dramatically expanded the roadmap and just have been sprinting ever since.
That's
to
insane. Like
develop stuff.
most people who follow whatever fishing, not just the Googans, but fishing, don't realize like what it takes as a company to keep going, like keep that trajectory like going and going and going. Like it's no secret that like the Googans like busted on the scene and just like made fishing cool to the young guys,
Oh, yeah.
right? But what do you do after year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What year are they at right now, the Googans?
So I mean,
5,
I think
6,
they came
7?
together in 2016. Like
16?
was the first time I think
So
they ever
7
said like
years.
Googan
Yeah.
Squad, and then like they launched Googan Baits in
Yeah,
18.
and
you know?
every single year has been different in with this trajectory.
yeah.
But you're
But
not.
how do you keep it going?
Your
Yeah.
background isn't YouTube or anything of it.
No,
you're like,
no,
you're from our core.
Right. So
And this is why we wanted to have you on. This for the this reason.
I like couldn't have made a more drastic industry
Yes.
change. So yeah, I came from Shimano. I spent almost eight years there, and 100-year-old family business, 100-year-old publicly traded family business, and you know, like one of the, if not the most well-respected brand in the industry, definitely one of.
Sure.
Yep.
To at the time when I joined, like, you know, a company that had released their first product 3 years prior, very polarizing, like, you know,
Yeah.
one of the most polarizing brands in
Sure.
the industry.
Complete
New hot
opposite.
shots,
Yeah, it was like total opposite, you know. But you know, I've been able to apply a lot of the fundamentals and learning from when I was at Shimano to try to help us make sound business decisions and
Right.
Within the
develop,
industry, sure.
you know, product roadmaps and go to market the right way and things
What
like that. But
piqued your interest to even think about moving to a company that had, like, you're at Shimano, most respected company. I know you spent a lot of time in Japan, several years. Like, I knew you were that guy they were kind of like putting some time into. What makes you think, oh, I want to go play with the guys that are pissing everyone off in the industry?
it was honestly, it was the hardest decision I've ever made, and it was a combination of a bunch of factors. I mean, 2020 was a really weird year for a lot of people, like working from home.
Where was home at that point?
At Charleston, South Carolina, which is where Shimano's fishing
Shimano,
division's
sure.
headquartered, and working from home. So like we stripped like all the travel out of it, a lot of the fun out of the job, right? Because like one of the great things about working for Shimano was, you know, visiting dealers and fishing with dealers and taking fishing trips and traveling internationally, and like all that was gone, right? So it was a hard year in 2020. Like we're selling everything we could get, you know, but just a hard year, like I think personally and professionally. I also started to like miss Texas a lot.
Yeah.
Like I had been at that point, I hadn't lived in Texas since 2014. Like all my fishing buddies are here, my parents are here, and like I found myself during 2020 like routinely just driving from, because we were not allowed to fly even for like personal stuff.
What a
just,
time!
wow.
Yeah.
What a time that was!
yeah, so
Was
like
that like Japan's?
yeah, it was like
rule?
they just very like didn't straight up say like you can't fly, but it was like you're definitely not flying for work, and we kind of discourage it. They were like the first ones to really like lock it down.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't go to the Classic that
I
year, and
remember.
everybody ripped us to pieces
I
because we didn't go to
remember.
the Classic. And
Fort-
then
that was the Fort Worth Classic, right?
it was Birmingham. Yeah.
Birmingham. Oh yeah, yeah.
And then
yeah.
like 2 weeks later, like everybody's shutting it down. Like we were a little bit ahead of the game, but yeah, I just found myself that year like coming back to Texas to fish as much as I could, and like really missing family and friends and all that. And you know, my parents are here; they're getting older, like you know,
Yeah.
just
Right.
things like that. And then, you know, I started to get a lot of like inbound recruiting stuff, which you know happens if you're like in the industry. Like you'll get, you know, headhunters come in
Sure.
and want to talk, and I'd
Yeah.
always just kind of tune those people out. Started to listen, and actually one of the like people that I started talking to was Ketchko, and I didn't know a ton about Ketchko. I knew like Mr. Tacklebox, I knew they did the Googan stuff, and I you know, I was actually old buddies with Rackley. So Rackley and I,
Yeah.
Lake Fork guy, for those of you who don't know him, is Justin
Yeah.
Rackley. So we were old buddies. Like we fished against each other in college. Like kind of knew of each other. I knew of him. He probably didn't know who I was because I was a spare. I didn't catch him. But
Yeah.
he and then
I guess I'm a spare.
oh yeah, I am first one to tell you I'm a total spare. I realized very quickly I was not going to make my living catching them. Like that's
it
like
took me a little longer.
I like within like 2 college tournaments, I was like, oh, this is fun. But I cannot hang. Like, but yeah, so I knew of him in college, and then he was a Shimano rep, like right when I started with Shimano. So he worked for Sportco Marketing,
Yeah,
which is a
Sportco.
great group of dudes.
Yeah.
And so Rackley and I became really close friends. Like we were traveling together and fishing together a bunch that year of like 2014, and then yeah, Ketchko was starting to recruit me for like a product role, and I just asked Rackley, I'm like, hey, what's the deal with Ketchko? I know a little bit about him, and he was like, hey, let me call you in like 2 hours. And then he called me and was like, hey, yeah, Ketchko's great, we love working with them, but like we're about to go through this acquisition, and then we're gonna like be building a whole team, and I think I should introduce you to some people. So like one thing led to another.
Wow.
And next thing I know, I'm like in Frisco meeting with
Wow.
like Kendrick and Rackley, and yeah, like it was.
It reminds me, the whole thing reminds me of like a tech startup. Like I grew up in the Silicon Valley. It reminds me like a bunch of young guys
Oh, yeah.
who are like hungry, like to succeed, and everyone's learning together, and like just they're getting a lot of attention, and people are like
Yep.
staying in their lane, doing their thing.
I kind of want to take it back though, the Ketchko thing you said. So Ketchko has no ownership in Googan, right?
No, it's a licensing deal. So like,
And it's always been a licensing
yeah, it's
deal?
always been a licensing agreement, and there was a sponsorship piece of it too.
How exactly does the licensing thing work? Like, I mean, all the companies do it. I mean, or a
Yeah.
lot of them do it. Like the Chatterbait, or how do you use the Chatterbait name? How does the licensing
That's a
thing
patent
work?
thing.
Yeah, so like licensing deals are, I mean, think of like the easiest thing to compare it to is like you see like everybody grew up with like Air Jordans, right?
Yeah.
And like Nike is licensing Jordan from him, right? And so he's getting paid royalties on every, he's made billions of dollars on royalties on Air Jordans. But so it's just that, they license the brand, and like we develop a partnership on that side. And they do kind of like the design, the development on those products. They distribute them to retail.
So basically, they're just using the Googan name, but they're handling the whole product development,
Production,
everything.
distribution, all that.
Yeah, so they definitely handle all of the distribution,
Nuts and bolts.
sales to retail,
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yep.
We do work extremely closely with them on the product development side of things. Like I still meet with them weekly and their product team.
Yeah.
Some of our other guys are on it. Like we're in constant communication with them, and the Googans have been super involved, like with product development with Catchco, like since inception of that deal. And I think that deal sprung up around. They launched Googan Baits plastics in 18, and I think that Catchco licensing deal started in 19. So
Oh, wow.
I mean, at the time, it was like Googan was new, and like everybody wanted it and needed it, and they didn't have enough internal resources with the Googan Baits team to be able to like tackle this whole
Sure.
product roadmap.
Sure.
And Catchco had invested pretty seriously in R&D and engineering, and it's like not a company that people look at as like somebody that has like engineers and stuff on staff, but like they've got like really talented engineering resources and industrial design resources, and
Right.
I mean, that's the move, right? I mean, you get a group of anglers who are growing their YouTubes collectively, like hundreds of thousands of millions of views, and the kids are growing, they're doing well, and people want to use exactly what they're using. It's like, so how do you, provide those products and promote those products and deliver? It's like you got a licensing deal. I mean, you have to. Like, I mean,
But
how does the Googan brand? It just doesn't get up and start
Yeah, yeah.
But
running.
the plastics they did on their own, technically, right?
yeah, they partnered with
That wasn't a Catchco.
Yeah,
thing.
that was totally unrelated. So that was like the Googan Baits side of the business. If like you kind of look at it, like previously it was like Googan Baits was the plastics business, then Googan Squad was like the media company.
Gotcha.
And the licensing deal was through like the media company. So
I know a lot.
Goo-
I just know
Googan
a
Squad,
lot
yeah.
of people get super confused.
Yeah,
like,
it's-
what's being done
Yeah.
where.
it's constant. Like
Yeah.
I still have the conversation with
Sure.
retailers all the time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was sitting at our mutual friends Bass Pro, like at the line review last
Yeah.
year, and like Steve Miller, who's like the chief merchant for fishing, like comes in and he's like, "All right, explain to me who you are again.
Yeah.
Like what things do you sell?" And I'm like, "Well, we distribute the plastics in the terminal and the tackle bags and the apparel and all that." So it's a constant conversation, and like, but I think it ultimately, like we're starting to like get it to the point where like most of the retailers are pretty clear on who you get from like what from who.
Yeah,
But
sure.
since I started, I'm like 27 months in at this point. Like that's been a constant deal. But
So you just said it, but in house you've got apparel, the plastics,
storage,
which is the Bass Mafia stuff.
yeah, and then like tackle bags and
Mm-hmm.
like our toters and backpacks and all that. Apparel storage, terminal tackle, so all of our tungsten, our hooks, our jig heads. We got a new shaky head, just came out.
Yeah.
And then soft plastics, yeah. So,
Okay.
and then so we handle those categories for Googan. Catchco handles rods, reels, sunglasses, line, tools, hard baits, jigs, and wire baits, which is spinner baits, chatter baits, or
Interesting.
sorry, lipless.
Lipless.
No,
That-
bladed jigs.
Okay. I just, I know a lot of people, I know now, but even back in the beginning, I was like, wait, what is what?
Yeah,
And,
even when I first started getting recruited to come
Yeah.
join these guys, it took like several explanations
To
before I fully
understand.
understood who I was going to go work for. But
Cool.
I was gonna ask you. So, like, you and I meet. Every other week or monthly. When I'm in town, I try to visit you guys.
Yeah.
Like, once every 2 weeks or whatever it is. Talk about Swimbaits. Talk about bait development, Bass Mafia side storage development, whatever it is. So, like, I was gonna ask you the other day. Maybe I did ask you this the other day. Like, and you're one to know because you've been at Shimano. You've seen the ins and outs of the business. You have a very good eye, an eagle eye, of what the fishing industry is doing. That's why you're sitting here right now talking. So like the bass fishing economics, like leading up to COVID, I mean, we were pumping on all 8 cylinders, like selling stuff left and right. I mean, everyone was enjoying fishing through COVID, 19, 20, 21, 22. Here we are in 2023, spring of 23. What are you seeing from, from the buyers, the retail buyers, and what are you seeing from like customers on the, on the buying level? Where are we at right now in 2023?
I mean, I think like there was so much doom and gloom going into this year. Like everybody keeps talking about, impending recessions, all that. I do know that our Q1 this year was dramatically better than our Q1 last year.
Wow.
And like one of our major distributors told me, I was there a couple weeks ago, told me that they had their best January they've ever had.
Wow.
So,
So confusing.
it is.
know,
But then
I
you talk
know.
to some of the retailers, and the
Yeah.
retailers are like,
Opposite.
it's a little rough. But then you hear others like, hey, we're doing better than we thought. So, I mean, I think like everybody's starting to realize like I probably need to start comping to 19. Like that was the last normal year, right? Because you had 20, everybody buying everything they get their hands on.
Yes.
21, kind of the first half of the year was kind of the same thing. By the end of 21, people were starting to be like, ooh, we got way too much stuff on the way.
Okay.
Last year, retailers were like, we got way too much stuff.
22,
and suppliers like, we got way too much stuff.
Yes.
And some of those people felt that at different times, right? I mean, depending on
on
how
who you
caught
are,
up,
what-
how
yeah.
caught up your supply chain was. I mean, there was people that were still filling empty pegs last year, but some people got caught up before that. And some people never were dealing
Never
with that. Some
even got
people were
caught up, yeah.
or like they were never behind. Like some
Okay,
people just
gotcha.
like were super well inventoried. Very rare, but like there was some companies that were like well inventoried throughout the whole thing and capitalized on that. And then
How is the demand for fishing goods in 2023, like leading up to this?
I mean,
point?
we did lose a lot of anglers from COVID. So like
Okay.
COVID, the big thing was like, oh, we got like 7-8 million more licenses in 2020. So,
Everyone
like,
go outside, enjoy the
everybody go out and go
outdoors.
fish.
Absolutely.
The message I heard at ICAST last year was, hey, well, we basically either lost all those people or we churned out people that were in the sport previously because we're basically back
So square
to
one.
pre-COVID levels
yep,
of anglers. So that being said, I do think the average guy that's fishing today is a lot more well-versed in the sport and tackle than they were 5 years ago, and a large part of that is due to YouTube. So
Sure.
there's so much more visibility now.
Absolutely.
The learning curve is
Yeah.
nothing now.
Yeah.
Like you can get
Yeah.
on a YouTube wormhole and learn how to swim bait from you, or like
You can learn about it or be entertained over here.
Yeah.
Entertainment, one rod, one reel, or yeah.
And there's just like the ramp up period to going from like a non-angler to somebody who like has serious gear and like can go catch fish is so much faster than it used to be. So
Yeah.
I think the average guy that's in the sport now is spending more money on good tackle than
Yeah.
they used to.
Yeah.
So I think like
I think
average,
that's fair to say.
the average rod price, the average reel price, all those things I think have been lifted, and I think they're going to keep being that
Stay
way.
there,
Like there's
yeah.
just so much more visibility to
Sure.
quality gear,
Sure.
and I've been seeing that trend for
Yeah.
like a decade. Like I mean, I used to go like do dealer visits in 2014. Like before I went to Japan, like all I did for 14 was go visit like fishing dealers, and I used to go to like Kentucky and Tennessee and some places, and they would be like, oh well, we can't sell anything more expensive than a Corrado. They're like,
Wow.
there's like nobody's gonna buy anything more expensive than a Corrado. That's like it's crazy. Like you never
Right.
million like could not.
Sure.
This is too expensive. Well, like I know like now like all those dealers in Kentucky like they sell
That's what I was going to ask
$300,
you.
$400 reels like regularly.
You,
I mean,
you made the
it's-
comment the quality is up. So what do you consider like price point wise quality?
I think I mean honestly there are like really good spinning reels out there that are like $49, $59. Like I mean
sure, yeah.
from some of
You
the
can
major
make a-
like
you
you
can
can
make
make
a
a really
good
good spinning
spinning
reel
reel,
for like
yeah.
for me bait casters it's like 90 I mean $99 and up for me is like the
Okay.
kind of like I think where you started getting into brass gears and metal frames and all that type of stuff. Like,
Right.
you're getting, you go and buy a $49 baitcaster, like you're probably going to get a plastic reel with like aluminum gears. And I mean,
Yeah.
you may
So-
get a season out of it or 2 seasons
I was
out
gonna
of it.
say
For
you're
bear-
buying one next year.
Yeah, I mean, and like there are guys out there be like, no man, they last me 10 years. But like if I were to pick
How
one up
often
and
do
turn
you
the
use-
handle,
yeah.
I'd be like, I
Yeah,
can't fish with
ain't
that.
gonna
you
work.
So
know?
I'm going to get a little awkward with you. We're going to just center this a little.
That's fine.
I really get, the
No,
the comment section can.
I can deal with it.
I got thin skin.
So you mentioned, we're here pre-COVID levels again. The economics of bass fishing is it's good. So bass,
It's leveling.
it's leveling. So Bass released their numbers, and like, what do these numbers mean? Like Nielsen numbers, whatever. Like, what do they mean? But like they're claiming like we broke all kinds of records, viewership. So like in Knoxville, Tennessee, just a couple weeks ago, total attendance was 163,000. And then for Fox Sports Live, the broadcast total reach was 4.5 million people. So like,
Is that
in your eyes, like, what does that mean? 4.5 million, households reach or eyeballs reached all across the country on Fox Sports. What does that mean? Like, how do we convert those people to, how do we get, how do we convert those to, Googan Bait users or Bass Mafia tackle stores?
Or do you see it as any sort of litmus test for your business? Like, does it?
I typically, admittedly, have never looked at like viewership as like an litmus test for like
indicator.
I typically like fishing license sales is a pretty like you have to buy
That's
a
a good one,
license to go fish, right?
Right.
But I will say, like, I think that the overwhelming majority of people watching the classic are probably just like
Intro.
they're like, it's on. I am interested in fishing, and it's on TV.
They're
and
giving
like,
it to me.
I'm like,
Sure.
like let's see what this is about.
Sure. Sure.
That's probably like when it's on network TV. I think the guys who are tuning in on Bassmaster are guys like me who are hardcore fans, right?
Sure.
Like they're like dudes that are gonna watch
We
it.
want to know
the
what
ba-
head
the
we
Bass
want-
Live
Yeah,
feed.
we want to
Yeah.
know what head Gussie's throwing.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if you're watching it on Fox, like that's the beauty of being on network television. Is
Yeah.
like there is exposure to all kinds of people,
Yeah.
And I think that I was one of the guys watching it. This is the first classic since that Birmingham one, but I would have gone to that one if I was allowed. But I actually missed the classic this year. I was sitting at home watching it. It was weird.
I
but,
missed it too.
Yeah.
Didn't have a good event.
Man, that was like y'all had such dramatic
It was crazy.
condition changes, and that low water I think kind of really hosed you guys too.
Bad.
Everybody was
Bad.
crawling about that.
Bad.
No current
No
from
current.
what I
We needed
heard
moving
everyone.
water. We needed
Yeah.
moving water, and a little bit higher would have been great. But I mean, like, just think about it. Like, Gussie won with 12 bass. He weighed
Yeah,
12 bass out of a possible 15.
That's really hard.
It is just brutal. It's
And I will
absolutely
say, if you weren't going to win it, I'm glad.
And it's in
I'm
March.
glad Gussie won it.
Yeah,
because
we
that
said
is
the
a
same thing.
Yeah, I think that's
super
everyone.
high character,
Yeah.
high caliber guy.
He's a
Like
good dude.
like one of my just
Good
favorite,
dude.
nicest dudes in this industry.
Oh,
I like.
Shimano. He's a Shimano.
Yeah,
guy.
he was like we
Yeah.
we knew each other from Shimano days. Shimano, and he's top notch. Like
Very
just
cool.
super,
And for
super
him
good
to
dude.
do wire to wire both events there, that's
yeah.
a cool
That's really
story.
That's
too.
gnarly. Yeah.
And actually, I have like a kind of a kindred spirit with Gussie because like what really got me into fishing was when I was 6 years old. I got invited to go on my first like epic family trip up to Lake of the Woods, and we would stay like in Kenora basically. So
Yeah.
like Gussie's hometown. Like so we would
Wow.
go get a
Small
cabin
town, yeah.
for 2 weeks in the summer, and like the Epics had been doing that back into like the early 80s
How
or
about
late
that?
70s, and so like I started going and doing that every year for when I was a little kid up and through high school, and so like that's like where I really got crazy into fishing was these summer
Wow.
trips we used to go to Lake of the Woods, and
I
literally
knew-
like I bought my first Shimano spinning reel at the Canadian Tire in Kenora.
Oh wow!
Like,
Oh,
That's
my-
super
the
cool.
Canadian Tire.
Well, that's like the Walmart, right?
Yeah.
Canadian
Yeah.
Tire.
Oh yeah, like
yeah.
pretty big tackle store.
I know you
tackle
weren't
chain.
hanging a minnow or moping or Damiki rigging as they call it back then. I know you weren't doing that.
Oh, well, dude, I was just fishing for whatever I
Just
could catch.
whatever,
like throwing
yeah.
a spinner bait on a spinning rod
Yeah.
and catching pike.
That's
and,
awesome.
Like, I really
That's
was.
cool.
I would like not like. I loved fishing growing up, but I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Like, access was not like the easiest thing for me to do was to ride my bike to a cemetery to fish. Like,
Wow,
like fish
yeah.
a cemetery
Wow.
pond.
Yeah.
Like really, like we didn't have golf
Gnarly.
courses where I
Yeah.
lived, so
Yeah.
it was access was kind of an issue, and like I didn't really like now like guys like murder them on South Lake Michigan and stuff, but like when we were kids, like just didn't really know
Right.
that was going on or like know how to do it. So I didn't become like a hardcore bass guy until I moved down to Texas when I was
So
18,
I didn't
but-
know that you were from Chicago. Is that why you have a soft spot for the Googans or YouTubers? Did that?
Actually, Peric and John went to one of my rival high schools. Like they were in.
Wow.
Oh my
they went to St.
gosh.
Vider. I went to Nazareth. Yeah,
Wow.
like same conference. But
this whole
they're
time
a lot
I thought
younger
you
than I
were a
am, but-
Texan.
I know.
No,
I did too.
I embraced it fully. Like I moved down here to go
Love
to
it down
go to
here,
UT,
dude.
and
Yeah.
like I think I called my dad after being here for like a week, and I was like, I am never moving back.
Yep.
Like this is
Yep,
home, and
it is.
I got I ended up moving to Japan and then South Carolina, so I was gone for like I guess 6-7 years, but then like I always knew I was going to find my way back here. I mean, I'm not a Texan by blood, but
Right.
I'm like at heart, like
For
like
sure.
you've
Yeah,
embraced this
love
place
it,
so
dude.
hard. Like
Love
it's
it.
just, it's like in my spirit. Like these are my people,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and just like the fishiest, huntingest place
It
you'll
is.
ever go.
It really
And
is. It's
just
wide open. People are nice. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
everyone's
friendly.
hardworking.
Yes,
Stay
yes.
in their lane, respectful around here. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It really is.
So you came from Shimano. You obviously went to what the Googans were doing, which is, night and day. What, like from the get-go, like were there some like learning curves of dealing with YouTubers or with the way their I don't even know business model was? Like, were you like, okay, maybe I got myself into something I don't understand, or was it pretty easy?
No, it's been
Business in
oh, it's
fishing
been-
business is fishing business.
It's been a wild ride. I mean, it's like definitely it is the fishing business, right? But these guys have gone about it and done their own thing largely and been
Right.
really successful, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many brands in fishing have been able to quickly, like, say, I'm here,
nobody's
right?
ever ramped up and scaled a brand this fast, like in
Yeah.
this industry that I mean
Yeah.
that I've seen. Like nothing has
No
gone
way.
from literally not having a product to being distributed at every major fishing retailer
Right.
in the country like that fast. I mean, rocket
drove,
ship trajectory.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
drove the hustle? The demand for it? The fans?
I think
mean,
it was a little bit of everything. They like they had so many people that were doubting them.
Yeah.
And B, like they hit YouTube like at the perfect time.
Crazy.
Right?
Lightning
crazy.
in a bottle.
Yeah, and they had a really good strategy of like filming together and creating like this
Yep.
content house and like the whole MTB house thing they were living in together, and like it was like the perfect storm of
It
how to
was.
build a brand really fast. Like YouTube was emerging as like the main platform for youth to consume any type of media,
anything,
like,
right.
it was just like the perfect storm and rocket ship, and like they've had tremendous success. They've also like they've like run into roadblocks and obstacles and like had to like navigate through different partnerships and all kinds of, I mean, they've been on a wild ride. I mean,
Yeah.
I've only been a part of the last 27 months of it, but
Yeah.
they've been on a wild ride this whole time, and a lot of ups and some downs, you know, and yeah, it's been a learning curve for me. Like, admittedly, like I used to have to just like make 9 PowerPoint presentations to the Japanese, like to do anything. And
Right.
now it's like,
Just do
now
it.
they're like, let's do it now and
Now.
do it today.
I got
And
an
it's like-
idea.
and
Let's
then I'm
run
like,
it,
guys,
yeah.
we're actually like, like you want to operate like we're like a little bass boat and we can just zip around and change direction.
Right.
But like we're like a battleship at this point. Like we have
Right.
a lot of infrastructure. We got like
They
the whole,
still
you
want to
know,
be that startup
we're-
vibe. And
we're not as nimble as
yeah.
we're probably not as nimble as we should be, unfortunately. Like, but that's just the
That's
nature of
part
a
of
growing
growth.
business when you're dealing with major retailers and
Right.
like it's just it's never is nothing happens as fast as they would want it to happen, I think.
Sure.
But I think that we've at least like developed the understanding of like they get why, and like I mean they're reasonable dudes, and like I've got good relationships with all of them at this point, and that's really important. I mean, I think I talk to all of them like every week in some capacity, and like still go fish with Rackley, and but it's they're on the cutting edge of like what's hot, what's trending,
Yes.
like what's getting views, right,
Yes.
and what's
Right.
happening. So
Yep.
and those things sometimes have a short life cycle, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
like
what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Like,
Quick to
so
pivot.
what's
They're
the,
very quick to pivot.
What's the conversion, right? They had the young entry level guys. It was obvious, like they controlled that market. Do they still control that market? Are those people growing with them?
I certainly think they are. Like, I mean,
Sticking
I've
with
actually
fishing?
been surprised at, well, I think the core demo is still probably like 15 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
I've been shocked at how many guys I meet at shows, events, boat ramps,
Oh, dude.
at the Crumb store that are like 40,
Adults.
50
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
year old
appareled
dudes.
up. Oh,
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
them all the
Yeah.
time out
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
I see them all the time.
I've
Yeah.
been, I can't go to a ramp with like Rackley without getting
Yep.
accosted, but like
Yep.
I meet like dudes all the time that are they're like my
Yeah.
age or older,
Yep.
like between my age and 50 that are Googan fans, and I think they're still recruiting the young demographic really well. We could
Mm-hmm.
see that by like just we opened that HQ store again.
In Crumb,
ton
yeah.
of kids coming in on
That's
spring break,
awesome.
like 12,
Younger,
13,
like
14.
younger than
yeah,
the
like even
Googans.
like 8, 9-year-olds.
Yes,
yeah.
dude.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
think they're
there's-
doing a really good job of recruiting the youth, and then like their core fans are just honestly they're getting older, they're getting jobs, they're getting more disposable income, which is good for
Right.
us as a
Yeah.
company,
They
right?
can
Like
spend
they can
more.
spend more money and
Right,
buy stuff,
right.
right?
But those fans are sticking with fishing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very
I
cool.
think that one of the best things about this industry is that we've developed so much infrastructure around youth and like
Yeah.
high school fishing and college fishing, and like college fishing is like almost 20 years old at this point, which is wild to think
that
about.
is crazy.
Like, I mean, we're like, I
Yeah.
think at least
That's right.
I
Late
think
2000s
it was
is
like
when it came out.
05,
Yeah,
I think was
Yeah.
like the
I
was gonna
first
say 05,
college
06.
fishing
And
event.
Rackley was a part of that,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
it might have been even a little earlier than 05. Like we might be coming up on like the 20-year anniversary of college fishing, which
Wow.
is nuts. Because
I
like
can't believe I've been out of college for as long as
I
I've
know.
been out of college.
yeah, like I
so.
fished my first college event in 2007.
That's
So it's
insane.
like it's but we've developed this like high school bass fishing. I think is still like the fastest growing sport
Oh,
in
yeah,
the country, and it's been that way for like a
definitely.
decade. And it started in Illinois of all places, which is crazy because
So
bass
crazy.
fishing largely sucks
Nowadays,
in Illinois.
yeah.
Sorry to Illinois viewers, but you know what I'm talking
To be a
about.
high school bass fisherman, all you need is a coach or a chaperone with a boat. Mm-hmm. You got to be in high school, and you got to have the hair that sticks out of the side
Yeah.
like this, and that is it.
Yeah.
You are a high school bass fisherman.
Mullet has become the
That's
official
the thing.
haircut.
They're just,
I gotta respect
like
like,
Alabama,
Mullet
like
and
the
pit
whole
vipers.
state of Alabama. Yeah.
people dog Gen Z, but these kids brought back the mullet so
Yeah.
hard,
They
and
got the
they're
swag.
owning it.
a little
Like,
bit
they
of
got swag.
stash.
they're
yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
These kids are funny these
Yeah.
days, man.
I like
Like
swag.
I'm totally into it. I think we get a good.
As
bright
long as
future.
they develop a good, a good work ethic, which by
Yes.
the way, the Googans have. Like,
Oh, they're
so I'm kind of
freaking
new
hustlers.
too, right? Yeah, I've been under the House of Outdoors group for a couple of years now.
For a
And-
year.
For a year.
You like to say couple of years.
I'm a fisherman.
He said,
"Oh, that's a couple
no,
pounds."
on his
Yeah.
swim bait video, he was like, I've been designing this for 2 years. I
Like,
was
no,
like,
you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, 2 years? Like, where did you get that math? I'm like, Johnny, did you like fact check?
Yeah.
And Johnny went along with it, put a date, and I'm like, what? Do y'all do the math?
Anyways,
that was like
anyways,
the
I've-
perfect storm because I had I was already like, we need to work on some
Yeah.
really good swim baits, and
Yeah.
then like you came
You
into
did.
the fold,
Yeah, you were
and-
hard on
and
that,
you
yeah.
were like, oh, I like where you're at, and then we
Yep.
kind of veered and made some shifts, but
Yep.
like yeah, like
Yeah.
we were like already like we're like
On it,
knowing that we
yeah.
needed to do this, and like you came in at the
Yeah.
perfect time.
Thanks for supporting the whole
Oh,
idea
dude,
and
I just-
everything.
like I
But
mean, I
like,
love
as
baits.
soon as I hopped on and started talking, and we've been friends with Rob forever, and I've met Mike and the rest of the guys. The biggest thing I noticed with those guys are they are the hardest working bunch of kids. Like, well, they're not kids anymore, but they work so hard, it is unreal.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they work harder than a lot, like most of the Bassmaster Elite Series guys. Period.
I'll say it. They can hate me, but they, elite guys work within this set time frame. Most of them, not
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a good handful that do more, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But as far as like true work ethic,
Those
It's
guys
pretty
crush
nuts,
it,
dude.
I mean, Rob, like very early on in our working relationship, would like be blowing me up on the weekends, and he was just like, "Sorry, dude, the weekends don't mean anything to me. Like, I'm still
Exactly.
grinding." I'm like, "Well,
Exactly.
you also don't go to the office from 9 to 5, but
Correct.
but
Yeah.
but
Correct.
he's
Yeah, yeah.
like, I know he's working.
It's
dude. I
insane,
mean, he's just
dude.
never
All
not
of them.
working.
Like, all of
they
them are
all
like
are.
that, yeah.
that's where me and Rob
24/7.
got
Yeah.
like saw eye to eye, because my brain, like, I don't see days.
Yeah.
And so when
Like
something is
Sundays,
in,
what are Sundays?
yeah, when something's in my head, I don't know those boundaries. Like, now I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't text that person right now.
I love
But with-
waking up to your
Dude.
text at like 6:30 in the morning.
Exactly.
Dude, yesterday morning was Sunday morning. Yeah, as we talk right here, yesterday morning was 6:30, 7 o'clock, and our text thread was Rob Turk, Lil Unkers TV, Trey, and myself, and this text thread just kept up. My phone's like, zzz, zzz, zzz. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's too early for this.
But that's where me and him hit it off, because we could talk at any time of day. Like, business was just part of talk.
I'm always on. Like
Yeah. But-
if I wasn't working in the fishing industry,
Yeah.
like I'm obsessed with fishing. So
Right.
like, it's work, but at the same time, like,
Right. But there still needs to be boundaries.
There does,
Because I
but-
think about like what used to drive me nuts about my dad. My dad works 24/7. He's in his
Yeah,
70s
he's
and
a
still
killer.
does it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't be like, I am that person right now, but I'm like, I have got to stop. Like, I need to set boundaries. I've started on my iPhones, like
making
between
notes for later.
Well, just between certain times where it automatically forces me off,
Right.
and stuff. But still, it's bad. It's bad. habit.
About the only time I'm like not gonna be on is like if I'm fishing and like we're catching them, like we're
Yeah.
catching them, like
Right.
I'll leave the phone alone.
Yes.
Like, but if like it's a slow day, like I'll sit down and knock out
Yeah.
emails and do
Yeah.
all that thing. Like
I went fishing with you like a couple weeks ago, and it was slow up until the very last little bit, but it was slow, slow, slow. And you were dabbling on your phone a little bit. I knew you were checking it. You took a phone call or two, and then the fishing picked up a little bit, and then that was
You're back to fishing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, but you gotta stay sharp and on it. But.
So when it comes to the Googans, do you feel like the core demo, the tournament demo, is like softening up to them, or like in the independent retailers that maybe do you feel like they've softened up, or is it still,
I mean,
because when they first came out, like the tournament guys hated them.
Yeah.
Hated them.
Still,
There's still. I mean, we still have some.
I get the looks.
We
just
still
for
have some
repping them. Yeah.
Sure enough, haters. Like, I mean, those guys are gonna hate no matter what.
Do you think it's justified? Any of it?
No, I mean, I think a lot of it is. I'll steal this from a great fishing dealer, my buddy Anthony Puglia Sporting Goods down in Metairie, Louisiana, badass tackle store. And Anthony, we have some mutual friends down in Louisiana who catch a ton of hate that are some great people that are charter captains down in Louisiana. And he said, you know what, most of these guys that hate them, they hate them because they ain't them. That's what Anthony Puglia said. Hate them because they ain't them. And it's like people see success and they see it as like, this is not the version of success that I would envision or how you got there. So it's somehow diluted by like, that's not the path I would have taken and that's not how I would do it. So your success is invalidated and it's bad and you're bad for the sport and you're bad. The Googans hands down have brought more people into the sport in the last 7 years.
I say it all the time.
All of it. Keep America Fishing, Bassmaster, anybody, all that combined, nobody has brought more kids into the sport and made them fanatical anglers than the Googans.
Like all these high school kids we see nowadays with the jerseys on, how do you think they learned or got introduced to fishing? The Googans.
Like the future of my job in this industry and like the future of this industry is likely like cemented partly due to the groundwork the Googans did. Like we are
I say it all the time.
I mean, and so we got haters. Those people are probably not going to go away. That being said, like independent tackle dealers, we're opening new Googan accounts constantly. Like we've got like legit rep groups out there hustling the baits and we're we've brought people into our org now, like myself and some other people that I used to work with and things like that had a ton of relationships in the industry. So like we've spread like the love there with like people we already had really good working relationships with. They're like, I'll give it a shot, I'll bring it in. And it performs at retail, right? So like it sells and people want it. Like they're like, I probably should have brought this in earlier. I've had kids walking in and asking for it for 3 years.
That's awesome.
Probably should. But
so where does Bass Mafia fit in? So you've got the Googan, you just talked about that, the Googan brand, the Googan demand, the Googan demo clientele. Where does Bass Mafia sit in?
So like I've always looked at, I think, as I said, Googan does have some older fans, but I think Googan's core demo is probably 15 to 30, probably skewing into those mid 30s. But I've always looked at Bass Mafia as being like the really hardcore tournament guy. And then oftentimes probably the guy that does not like Googan. And so I look at just as kind of I tend to look at Googan as a fun brand, right? Like people who just want to have fun, go out, go fishing, catch fish, and just like do it for the enjoyment of the sport because guess what? It's not all about tournaments. I love tournament fishing.
It's not. It's a small percentage.
I honestly I love tournament fishing more than anything, but I find myself now just being like, I'm just gonna skip that tournament and I'm gonna go fish a fun little pond lake and go catch them because that feels good.
I did it today. I did it today after like the last month of hardcore fishing, and I felt so good today, just jacking 5s and 6s, just having fun. Like I felt way better about that than catching a 5-pounder in the classic.
I'm trying to
week.
get him. Which I want him to win trophies, but I'd rather him focus on this more fun stuff, this more lighthearted stuff.
Well, honestly,
today I had a blast.
I think part of it too is I think it's good to go mess around at some of these little lakes and catch them a bunch too. Gives you a ton of confidence in your baits. Yeah. Right. So you get to catch them on something, then you're like, oh, I can apply this elsewhere. Like that's the best I've ever done tournament fishing were times where I was fishing a bunch and I was fishing little fun lakes and I was just like getting dialed on like 5 or 6 baits that I could get a bite on that week, right? Like I can catch them on this bait right now. Doesn't matter like what lake I'm going to, right? But so fishing's fun, and that's what I think Googan is about, is like having fun. And then I think Bass Mafia is more of that like serious, whether it's a tournament guy or just a tackle enthusiast, right? So like I used to, back when we used to do like whole like customer segmentation or consumer segmentation stuff and like who are we targeting with each product at Shimano, like we'd have to identify like who is your target customer. So like I would separate like tournament as we had like light tournament and heavy tournament, which basically was like
Really?
high school, and then like hardcore
Okay,
tournament,
right.
and then like enthusiast was a whole separate deal. So it was a guy that was just like appreciation for tackle and really nice tackle, but really
a lot
has
of
no, like,
JDM guys there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was really the identifier, was like, these are the guys that are like, they like to maybe look at their gears as much as they do to use it. And like they're like
So pretty. There's no
and
teeth
there's a
marks on
lot
it,
of
so pretty.
Canadians in that group because they have to sit in the snow for
There
months at a
are,
time.
sure.
But they like to look at their pretty
There
stuff in the
are.
wintertime.
Yep.
I
I've
love
met
my
them. I've
Canadian
met all those guys when I was at
brethren,
Megabass.
Oh yeah,
I met them all.
I would be shocked if Megabass didn't do like a tremendous business in Canada,
Yep,
because like
they do.
there's so many Canadian tackle geeks. But it's
That's
like literally because they're
interesting, 'cause
snowed
it's
in.
snowed. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
then
interesting.
they like to
Huh.
tinker in their garage and change out their hooks.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah, so like the enthusiast market is something that I'm like always been super, and I'm somewhat of an enthusiast myself.
Yep.
I collect
Oh,
different
dude, your
stuff,
glide bait
and-
collection is impressive.
My glide
way
bait,
better than mine.
No. My glide bait collection is okay. I've got like a.
Well, your knowledge of it.
I know. I just like baits, dude. I mean, like I
Are we
said,
gonna work on a Bass Mafia glide bait?
Yes. I like have to. I have to know what's going on with baits,
Yep.
like and tackle in general.
Yep.
Like that's, if I am good at anything in this industry, it's like knowing what's selling and why, and
I get that.
and that's
It's like patterning fish. You're
Yeah.
patterning the consumer,
Yeah,
the market.
and-
Exactly.
and
That's awesome, man.
And that's just like if the day that like there's some bait deal going on that I don't know about, I'm gonna be really upset. 'Cause it's gonna be like that passed me up, you know. But I dabble, like I don't, you know.
You actually fish though.
Yeah.
I despise the enthusiasts, like, because he got when he hooked up with you guys, dude. Those MB enthusiasts.
Oh, I beat you to death.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
it was so bad. But when I look at their profile and not one of their
There's no
bait
fish
has
pictures.
any hook rash on it or anything, it's like brand new everything. I'm
There's
like,
no fish pictures.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
all
like, you
baits and
don't
gear.
even fish, bro.
I got my wife selling them like limited edition Megabass jerk baits on eBay right now for $157 a
There's-
pop, and they just
Wow.
go into their case, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
and they're the ugliest colors. I'm
yeah.
like, you're not fishing.
It's
you're not
crazy.
catching
It
anything
is
on
a
that,
weird
dude.
thing.
It's
Like, and
such a-
you lived in Japan. I've been to Japan once, and like that's how it is over there.
Oh, yeah,
like
it's toys.
Like the tournament guys, like like I don't know what
Legos.
it's like for Taku to
Yeah.
go back. Yeah, it is. It's a collection thing.
it's
really
a big
crazy.
time deal over there. It's literally collecting, and it's definitely spread over here big time.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. Like I collect balsa crankbaits and all kinds.
Yeah,
of
but
stuff,
you fish them, right?
I literally I have a like I do not.
Oh my gosh.
I would say I do not keep anything out of my box. So like I don't like if I buy a lure, like even though I'm like I just really want to have this, it
Yeah.
goes in the box,
Okay,
and I
good.
probably will fish it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay,
I mean, there's stuff that goes in the box and then I never use it.
I'm a
and like,
tackle
eh.
junkie too. I have
So,
so many
yeah.
different Japanese things,
Ultimately,
but I fish them.
so like whether you're a Shimano or Megabass, a JDM, like targeting the enthusiast, or a Googan brand where the 13, 14-year-old kid just wants to feel some kind of connection to one rod, one reel, LFG, Lunkers TV, whatever it is. Ultimately, it's just it's putting product out there that connects with that connects the brand to the consumer. So there's a couple different avenues to do that, and I learned that as well. You worked at Shimano, I worked over at Megabass, and it's completely different over here. Enthusiast. Then here's more of the application guys. Like let's feel that connection. And we've noticed that with the dangerous swim bait that you graciously were pushing me to put out, and like we're noticing that we're like some people were like, oh, it's not the angler that sells us the bait or the swim bait in this case. It's not the angler, it's the brand or it's the lure itself. Well, we're seeing, and we had a lot of that hate, like, oh, dude, they're not gonna sell any of that. It's a so and so knockoff. It's this, that, and the other. Dude, people are buying that thing and they're loving it and they're catching a lot of fish on it. So like,
It's an awesome bait.
yeah. For someone to say like, oh, this and that, it's not this. These people want a connection. They want to feel a connection from me to the Bass Mafia brand to swim bait fishing in general, and I provide that. You provide that.
There's so few, like the whole knockoff thing. There's so few opportunities in this industry to make something that has never been done before. Like a lot of the things that are suddenly like the big crazes are like often things that were done like 60 years ago and then repurposed. Like
Sure.
the Whopper Plopper.
Sure.
The Whopper Plopper hit the world by storm and they sold truckloads, containers of them, like
Yep.
incredible bait, like
Yep.
awesome bait,
Yep.
great performing bait, but it wasn't like a new concept.
Yeah.
Like nobody was like, oh, the Whopper Plopper knocked off all those musky baits that had been around for
Sure.
50 years, you know, like,
And it was a musky guy that came out.
Yeah, the musky guy that came out with it,
yeah.
you know, and I think, and also too is the Japanese are the kings
Of knocking off.
of taking
Dude.
They're
taking
the
a
worst.
concept. What the Japanese are incredible at is they will find something and
Put a
and
better-
identify it and study it so intensively and deeply, and then just tweak it and
Yep.
make it better.
Just a bit.
Like,
Yep.
look at the pickup trucks that you and I,
Sure.
like, the
Yeah.
Tundra, like
Sure.
Japanese, like
That's
Yep.
their
there's
that's
no,
their
they
lane.
don't they don't know anything about driving around in pickup trucks,
Yep.
and like they make an incredible
Yep.
pickup truck because they
Yep.
literally
Studied
they
it
probably
for
studied
years.
the
And-
GM and
and-
Ford trucks for 50 years before they made
Yep.
one.
This
you
is
know?
one
Yeah.
of that's one of my gripes, and I don't like have the words. I don't normally like say it right when I go after people on social media, but it's like you do realize Megabass, most of the stuff they're knocking off. Like during product development, they'll say, "Okay, we want to make that OSP bait." Like they'll say, "Oh, that's a wiggle work." Like
We've seen it.
everybody,
We've
like
seen it.
even, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like when I was at Shimano and when I went to go make a new rod,
Yeah.
like we start with
Yes.
somebody else's rod as
Yeah.
an action sample.
Exactly.
it's how it.
Yeah.
Right, and it might be
yeah.
one of our rods. Like, it
Yeah.
might be like, hey, we used to make this rod 10 years ago, but like, I've worked on some incredible series of rods that do incredibly well in this market. That guess what? They all started with an action
Yeah.
reference sample from
Yeah.
somebody.
And that's what
And-
I remember sitting with him and Isaac, and my whole thing was just do it better.
Yeah.
Make it
Make
the
it better.
bait.
Make
that
it
is-
exactly what you
it's,
want,
Yes.
It's definitely like the whole bass fishing thing, like lures and product development is like it's an ingredient of innovation and marketing. It really is like the ratios change here and there, but like innovation is like a weird term in bass fishing because it's that thing is some version of that thing that, like you said, was out 10, 20, 30 years ago. Or like for like a harness swim bait, for example, go on any Japanese website or retailer in Japan and look at a harness swim bait. There's a million harness swim baits out there that you have never seen. Like you've never seen
Yeah,
them.
they
You've only
just
seen one
never
or two.
landed here.
Exactly. You've seen two.
Yeah, like Fish Arrow's got one.
Yeah,
Jackal
there's a
Jackal's
ton of
been
them.
selling that Dunkel in the U.S.
Yeah.
for like
There's
5
a
years.
ton of them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That fish arrow one's been around for a long
Yeah.
time. I got
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah,
And don't
there's-
think we haven't bought a few and
Yeah, I
checked
mean-
them out, and
everybody's doing it.
exactly.
I have no issue with it. Here's the thing: the consumer is going to decide what's the bait that they catch fish on.
There you go.
So if you're going to play in that market, you better make a better version,
Exactly.
or fill a void that one's not.
I've had
Otherwise, you're not going to sell them.
More people in my inbox the last month say, "Dude, you could wind that swim bait fast without it rolling." I'm like, "That's exactly what we set out
I
to
mean,
do."
that's, I've caught a lot of fish on a mag draft. I know you've caught a lot of fish on
Oh,
a mag
yeah.
draft, but there was a lot of things that I don't like about
Yeah.
it. And that was like,
That's what we looked at.
We always
Yeah.
set out as like, all right, what do you like about this bait? Okay, here's the 4 to 10 things, whatever you like about this bait. Here, what don't you like about this bait? And then you
Yep.
list them all off, and you're like, there's as many things
Let's
I
work on
don't
that.
like about this bait as
Yeah.
I do like
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it, and like,
Word.
and I can say that about and like stuff that I use all the time,
Sure.
like that I love, like,
All
I
kinds
love
of
that
things.
bait,
Yep.
but I would
yeah.
rather it do this,
Yep.
Exactly.
but I wish it wasn't $30.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's stuff
Exactly.
that like there's ways to
Yep.
refine on concepts, and like every company in the industry is doing it.
Yep.
They're all studying what everybody else is doing. Like we at Shimano, we constantly we're just benchmarking against Daiwa, and Daiwa's benchmarking
Yes.
against
Right.
Shimano.
Yes.
And like you're just literally like, okay,
Yep.
as soon as anybody else's new stuff comes out,
Yep.
we buy all of it.
Yeah.
You study it intensely, and you
Yep.
try to figure out, okay, what did they do this time that was better than what we did last time, and
Yep.
then how do we improve on that?
Yep.
And it's just tit for tat, man.
It's
I mean,
not just bass fit. It's not just
it's
fishing.
everything.
It's
It's
Ford.
everything.
It's
It's
Chevy.
everything
It's
in this
Honda
world.
and Toyota. It
Like,
is. It really
it's
is.
phones.
But that's-
it's
that's-
every consumer product.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what's cool about competition in any industry. Competition is what creates innovation because you want to beat the next guy.
Yeah.
So everyone's studying and everyone's leveling up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think the day that we all stop like trying to be inspired by our competitors to be better, then like that's when
We got
things will
problems.
get
Oh,
like,
we're
really,
done.
I think
We're
that's when
done
things
as
will get really
humans.
bad.
Yeah,
'cause
absolutely.
Then they're just going to be like, take this thing and buy it because
Right.
like that's what we want to sell
Exactly.
you, and that's not good. I mean, honestly, I love the amount of like new brands that have entered the sport, and
Yeah.
That's good.
in the last decade, like you've like had 13, and I
Yeah.
guess 13's been around for a little more than a decade now, but like there's been so many more competitors in
That
the
have a
space.
chance.
Yeah, and like there's just always people pushing the envelope. I mean, like
Yep.
look what like 6 Cents did with like what Casey did
Oh,
just with
dude,
his,
they
just with his
blew
paint
up.
jobs.
They
like,
blew up.
Like Casey raised the bar for
Yep.
paint jobs
Dude,
in
I
the
have
industry
boxes
dramatically.
of
Yeah, and
like-
you sitting here
boxes
giving
of
him
his
props
paint
for
jobs.
props for that.
Dude,
is
I
like,
have no enemies in this
No,
industry.
yeah,
like
yeah.
I like
Yeah, it's too
people
small,
people
dude.
try to like make this like a
Yeah.
this brand versus this brand
Yeah.
thing and
Yeah.
like
red team versus blue team,
I-
green team versus whatever.
guess what? I've
Yeah.
got it all in my box somewhere. Like
Yep.
there's not a brand that I don't
Yeah.
own or don't
Sure.
fish with, and like and I just dude, this industry is too small to have
Yep.
enemies. Like
Yep.
if I could
It's
say
tiny.
anything, I've been in this industry for a pretty good time now. I don't think I probably have like 5 or less enemies, and those guys are really just like probably assholes. Like
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
That's us. Like, if we
I
don't
don't-
like someone, you should probably pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not like I'm not in the business of making enemies. Like I
Yep.
will give props to any brand if they're doing something right. Like
Yep.
because
That's the thing is like we really are one giant family,
Yeah,
but it's
man.
a small thing. It's like a small knit.
Everyone
like fishing is
rotates.
so small.
and at
exactly.
least we're all like American companies supporting the American fishing
Fishing.
industry.
Yeah, it's
but like versus
fishing.
like look what's happening on Amazon now, where you have all these like fishing
Yeah.
kits and all this tackle.
Yeah,
pouring
what's
into
up
the
with that, dude?
It's all direct import from China. So
China.
like there's like brands that are like just building up that are just straight up Chinese brands that are selling direct consumer to American consumers via Amazon, via
Right,
targeted
right,
Instagram
right.
ads.
Are
all
our
these
consumers
things.
Right.
buying it?
I mean, like I see people buy like stuff off of Wish and off of Alibaba and
I've
AliExpress.
seen
There's
the
I'll bet
and,
you there's a
repurpose.
good percentage of those 4.3
Oh, there's-
million viewers on
Those-
Fox
I
that
heard-
will go on Amazon because they watch the classic, don't even know who Gussie is, and be like, oh, I need a jig head.
I heard
and
people.
they'll buy a
we'll buy-
970 piece
we'll
kit
buy
for
the-
$22.
I
on
hear that people
Amazon.
do
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
chatterbait thing, right? I
Oh
hear
yeah, the
that's a
Jackie
thing.
hammers
Yeah.
off of AliExpress.
Jackie Hammer.
Yeah, there's
I
literally
hear
and
about
it,
that.
dude. It looks identical except
Jackie
for the
Hammer and
there's
Rush Hour
a,
5. Yeah.
What do you call it? The little thing that holds the plastic. The keeper.
Yeah.
The keeper's got 1 peg instead of 2, but it
Oh,
looks
my
almost like, and it's not an
Lord,
owner hook,
dude.
but like. I mean,
Jackie
honestly, like
Hammer?
at least we are like
Jackie.
it's legit. It's Jackie Hamar, HAM''R.
R.
I am not encouraging you to go on the Chinese
Oh my
internet
God.
and buy knockoff baits because
Oh, that's legit.
No, it's like I have a buddy that was fishing with on there, and I'm like, you are such a broke ass. Like,
Oh
buy the
my
real
God.
thing. But
Was that
no.
designed by Hret Bite?
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably.
Lord, dude,
You're gonna
that's
get us
amazing.
canceled.
That's amazing.
No, but I just man, this industry is and like some of it honestly, like there is like manufactured beef between YouTubers. Guess what, guys? It's like a lot of it's like due to views
Yeah.
and like you
Yeah,
know,
it helps.
like a lot of
Yeah.
these guys don't really hate each other, like they just have to hate each other
Yeah,
on
it's
the
wrestling.
internet. You
It's
know, it's
wrestling.
wrestling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
WWE,
Yep.
dude. And
Yep.
I don't know. I go out of my way to like try to be good to everybody I meet
Good.
in this business. And,
So you've
you know.
been working now with YouTubers and with pro fishermen. Like,
Yeah.
You run the pro staff. Well, I mean, you do more than
All
that.
the
but-
Googan, Scott Martin, Dustin
So
Connell.
what
myself.
are the pros and cons you see from both sides? Like, is there things that you're like, I wish the pro guys would understand this, and I wish the YouTubers would understand that?
The drug that like YouTubers give you is it's so easy to track like direct conversions
Yeah.
to sales. Like they can post a video, post their code, and it translates to a sale.
Yeah.
Like and it's like quantifiable.
Yep.
And it's like that is the beauty of influencer marketing.
And that was the biggest threat to us pro bass fishermen. Like
It still
companies
is.
were coming to us
like
saying,
how do you prove out that you sell anything?
Yeah.
there it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and
right.
it- and it's
for them.
it-
there
yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And it's always been very hard to pencil out
Yeah.
ROI on pro staff.
Yep.
And
Right.
Yep.
and I mean I've had this conversation for over a decade, and it's like, how do you justify the big name guy?
Sure.
Right.
You know, and I think there's some ways that companies have done it through royalty agreements with pros on certain baits, working with pros and their retail
Where it's
partners to
mutual.
activate baits and
Yep.
activate launches. Like,
Yep.
you know, you and Dustin and MDJ are like, you know, you guys are all working with Bass Pro. Like,
Yep.
Bass Pro is working really well with us. Like, they're supportive of our brands. They want to see them grow. So like,
Has to be that
there's
way,
things.
yeah.
It has to be that
Yep.
way, right?
Yep.
You know, I think that's like probably one of the main advantages of pros versus influencers.
Yep.
Is pros understand
It's
the
a good
retailers.
answer.
They understand the retailers, the
Yep.
need for those retailers, what they do for the business, what they do for the industry. YouTubers, a lot of times they understand like converting a sale from YouTube to a website, right?
Yeah.
And like so then they often think like, oh, this is the world, right?
Yeah,
But it's
immediate.
like,
yeah.
like the retail, like this industry doesn't go anywhere without retailers, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
it's that omni-channel strategy is really difficult to balance, but like I think
Absolutely.
we try to do a good job of it, and I think most of our retailer partners see that. Like we try to, like if we know we're going to run a crazy sale on our website, we try to go to our retailers months in advance, be like, hey, we're going to
Let
do
'em
this.
know.
Here's what we're going to do for you, right? And that's like the old Costa model. Like that was
Right.
Costa Del Mar used to do that really well, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, pre all their sale like to the Italian guys. But
Wow.
they would say like, hey, we're going to run this crazy
It's just
Memorial Day
respect,
sale.
you
But, I mean, you
take
have
care
to,
of
man. There's,
us. We're not
partners.
trying to screw you.
Yeah.
It's just,
So like going, and I'm a big advocate for that. Of like, if we're gonna do something on our website, like we need to go to our retailers, let them partner in it, because they need us, we need them. Like it's a very symbiotic relationship. And like, I mean, a lot of my best friends in this industry are fishing tackle retailers. So
Yeah.
it's like, I respect brick and mortar, and like I do, like pros get that. I think pros are also really good at understanding the need for like timelines, and like you guys have to plan very extensively over the course of your year, and like
Right.
you're planning cycles with your sponsors, you're planning for your tournaments, you're planning, like you guys have a much like longer view, I would say, of like like the roadmap and how long it takes to get things done.
I
and
don't.
all.
She does.
But
It's true.
I suck at it.
He is really.
but it's like,
he's a YouTuber at heart.
yeah, he's like the guy who's like, oh, I have an idea, let's bring it to market in 3 days. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's I get that side too. But
That's good stuff.
I love working with both sides. I mean, and honestly, like the reason you and some of the other guys that we're partnered with are the people we're partnering with is because like you guys are pro bass fishermen, but you get the other side and you're
That's the
embracing
whole
that
key.
side.
That's the whole key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're adapting.
It's
Like
tough.
you're adapting to
hybrid,
how
kind of a hybrid approach.
yeah, and you're adapting to like your value proposition for a sponsor.
Yep.
It's
You know,
that when we talked about it, it's like if you're gonna deny that this is where it's going, you're gonna get left behind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you want to deny it and fizzle out and have issues getting sponsors, whatever, but we got to get on this train quick.
Yeah.
just being able to catch them, like there's only a very few people now that are going to be able to operate.
Barely
like, just being
operate
able to catch
by
them.
catching them.
Well,
Yeah.
if you cash
Just
an
barely.
elite check, every one of them, that's only 80 grand. You got 50 grand in entry fees, so you're at 30 grand there. Then you got your expenses. Like, if you really do the math, catching them does not get you anywhere. It
Yeah.
gets you a normal job.
Yeah, there's like I can think of a couple of guys right now who probably are never going to do the social media thing, and they're
Yep.
never going to do it well, but they're probably good enough and going to win enough that it probably doesn't matter. And it's like Thrift is the first guy that I'm thinking
Yeah,
of. Like
right,
Thrift is
dude.
like a legit guy who
Yeah.
like he could go out
Yeah.
and win
Right.
$500,000 a
Yep.
year
And not
in
make
a
a
good
single
year, and like in a
post, yeah.
bad year he's probably going to go out and win like 250.
Yeah.
like because
Yeah.
he wins something
He's
like
done it.
every
He's
year.
done it every year,
Like he's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
freak, right?
Yep, yep.
But like, and like he's got socials, but I guarantee you he's got some like
Yep.
kid running him for like $800 a month, and
Yeah.
like
Right.
he's never going to be a YouTuber, and he, probably didn't have to be.
Yep.
But
Right.
like there's
It's
like one
very
I'm
hard.
Thrift. Like
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of who the next guy is because I'm
It's
like, oh, then you have
crazy.
like
There
Jacob
is none.
Wheeler and Dustin
Sure.
Cannell, but like
Sure.
they're fully
They're in the
embracing
game.
the YouTube
Yeah.
side and the influencer side. Like
Yep.
they get it, and like I think that the guys that aren't gonna be active social presences are like largely gonna probably fade out from a sponsor support
Well,
perspective. It may
unfortunately,
just be
that's the way
independently
it
wealthy
is.
guys
Yeah,
that may
yeah.
do
Here's
it.
the
But
thing, like if you give a pro a royalty on a bait, you still want to sell that bait, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not just for like, I gave you royalty. Like we got to move
No, we-
baits. And if you
we only win together in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
situation,
and
right?
okay, so you got 8 chances to win on that bait that year, right? Because that's really all that's going to move it on that platform. So then you're probably not going to win one. Let's be
Yeah.
honest here. So if you don't win one, how are we moving that bait? Like
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah, I mean,
Other channels.
yeah, it's like literally just
It's
YouTube
just
and
how it works. Mm-hmm.
working hard and showing up at the right places and talking to the right people. You know, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, catching them at that level is so hard, right?
It
It's
really
so-
is.
so
Everyone's
hard.
getting so good. Everyone
Yeah.
has a chance every
Well,
week.
I mean, look at I mean, I'm not gonna like dog on anybody like specifically, but like look at like 30 of the guys that probably left Bass and
Mm-hmm.
went to BPT MLF, like who didn't really evolve their game with
Yep.
like forward facing sonar,
Yep.
haven't evolved their game
On
like
the
from a social
content.
standpoint or
Right.
whatever. And like,
I don't
you
know
know,
how they're making
like
it.
I think some of them are independently wealthy and probably
Yep.
gonna like just be able to hack it through that. But like,
Jesus.
I mean, there's like, there's a lot of guys that you're like, man, I think I hadn't caught him in like 9 years, and
And
like,
doesn't have anything else
and he's
going
got nothing
on.
else going on. He's probably losing sponsor dollars like crazy, right? Because
Yep.
they're all going to these guys who can catch him at least as well as this guy can catch him, but he's also really hustling and out there,
Yep.
putting his name out there, and,
Yep.
and doing the things that this guy might have done 20 years ago.
Do you
know?
think that with the YouTubers, right? They know the Googan guys. They know how they move product, right? And I mean, me and Rob, we always kind of go back and forth on this, on like, do pros really move product, things like that, right? Do you think that what Chris and Dustin Connell have been able to do, one, has it opened everyone's eye? Like, you think it's opening the guys' eyes that pros do have the ability to seriously move some?
Yeah, I mean, I think like these signature series baits are like a pretty good teller,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, and like, look at how many, hack attack jigs have been sold,
Sure.
or how
Right.
many
Sure.
KVD
KVD spinnerbaits.
everything
Everything's,
have been sold.
yeah,
And, like,
yeah.
those are pro-driven
Yep.
sales,
Yep.
right? Like,
Right.
it's not trackable from a link standpoint or whatever, but
Right.
like,
sure.
um,
But
those
those
guys
but those
being-
items are still around. So what does that tell you after
yeah,
all
staying
these years?
power.
They're
I mean,
still,
how
yeah.
many jigs have come out how many flipping jigs
Oh,
have come out since a hack attack came
oh,
out? And
millions.
hack attacks are still on the
Still-
shelves.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
In a lot of places,
Sure. And they're
and
still
selling
catching them,
selling
sure.
a ton.
Sure. A freaking jig.
yeah.
A jig.
Big old gaff hook. and
Yeah.
A
Tuna
giant
hook. It's a tuna hook. It's a Siwash tuna hook.
Brought that thing down to El Salto a couple years ago.
Yeah.
and that
That's
is
what you
a
need.
good Mexico jig. I
Yeah.
can tell you that. But
That's but that's one thing, like I don't ever think, I think that the YouTube side needs the pros. I feel like pros, they're who push innovation, right? Because the environments that they put themselves in, right? Like they have to fish in this environment with all this pressure, forces them to have to up techniques and really focus in on details that when you're a YouTuber and a fun fisherman, you don't have to think about any of that.
No, you're
you
not
can
pressured like that.
yeah, you don't have to catch them in that moment, so you don't have to think about those details. So
yeah, and they're like, I mean, oftentimes their heads at like trying to innovate from a content perspective. And like
Exactly.
what's like
Exactly.
what's the next cool
Sure.
thing that nobody's doing from a
Sure.
content side, or the next lane that nobody's really looking at.
A lot of it's
Um,
strumming the chords like outside of fishing. You're strumming the chords of like everyday life. Like
Yeah.
how can I connect with the audience? And this is what I've learned watching these guys, is like strumming those chords of just that mowing the lawn or doing this, doing that outside of fishing.
showing
And
you're an
it's interesting.
everyday guy,
And it's interesting,
that
yeah.
people can connect
Very
with.
interesting. And that's just the way social media is these days, dude. It really is. It's really crazy because like when I grew up fishing, it was like Ike and Skeet and Gerald and KVD. I looked up to those guys. I really did. And I remember Ike saying, giving advice to the younger guys, which was me in high school at the time. It's like, whatever you do, just do it and stand out. Like stand out. And he
Right.
was always the guy who would yell and scream and like literally stand out and be the loudest guy, and literally be the loudest guy in the room. Now, to stand out, you got to be the loudest guy on the interweb, like the loudest guy on social media, the loudest guy on YouTube, the loudest guy on Instagram. Hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. Invest in me, and I will move product. And not exactly like that, but that's basically how it is.
Yeah, I mean, see, like you either got to be the loudest or the best or the most likable,
Yes.
or like there's
Or a
like
combination
of
of
all
both.
those things.
Yeah,
Yes.
top of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just be doing like
And it's always been like that. It's just the landscape just looks a little different. It's
Yeah.
all digital now.
yeah, I mean, because even in the pro side, like there's always been guys that were just like more boisterous than
Yeah.
others that didn't necessarily like caught them fair,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
they were just a bigger personality,
Yep.
so they got more like
Yep.
camera time.
Well,
or they
Sure,
got more-
ESPN would do it.
like,
Yeah, sure.
I didn't watch it all back then, but I always hear you talking about it and other people that they weren't, the Swindles and the Skeets weren't household names until Bassmaster did that show or whatever. There was some show on ESPN, and that's really where their brands took
They
off. Or
did
no?
some shows through JAM Studios, yeah, but
No.
they were catching them. They were catching them, and they were highlighting them because ESPN wanted to create characters, and they
Yeah.
did that. And I was focused. I mean, I watched it growing up, so
Yeah,
But
and
that
I
was
mean,
before social media, where they could now take control of that
Yeah.
and work hard and be those characters.
yeah, and I mean, like, there's so many guys that you can see it happening where they're like, oh, I'm catching them really good right
Yeah.
now. Oh, maybe I should work on this like social side a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like they're learning. Like
You could see it. You
like,
could see it. Yeah.
Like even Michael Neal.
Yeah.
Michael Neal's been clobbering them
Sure.
for the last couple of years. Like
Yeah.
catching the
Yeah.
and Michael's like
It's a good example.
incredibly nice guy.
Yep.
Owns a tackle store.
Yep.
Very like
Yeah.
conservative Tennessee
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like even
Law
Michael's
enforcement
like
background, yeah.
putting himself out there a little more on social and like
Yeah.
doing like he gets it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean he's like,
Sure.
yeah, I'm absolutely crushing him right now and
Yep.
win. I don't know how many events that guy's won in the last
And
5
that-
years, but
And that just whoever his sponsors are, I don't keep up on it, but that's just ammo for him to say, hey, look, I mean, there's the evidence right there. I have been putting myself out there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and he's
So when you ask, there it is. You know,
he's doing his thing, and I think that everybody's going to eventually kind of meld into this version of like, yes, I'm a professional angler. Yes, I can catch them, but I do
Also do
I do
media.
this. I
Yeah,
do
it's
media,
crazy.
right?
Yeah, it's a crazy
I think
thing.
10 years from now, like the guys who like just like, no, man, I don't get that stuff. I don't do anything. Like those guys they'll fade out. Or, I mean, they may be able to still pay their entries and whatever, but they're not going to get any camera time. They're not going to, because the companies that put these tournaments on, Bass and MLF, are media companies,
Yep.
right? So they're going to invest their resources in the
Yeah.
guys that are investing in like, they're going to want to put views on the guys that are going to bring them views,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
You're starting to see it right now because some like high school and college kids are all over the classic floor. They're all over the ICAST floors in these booths.
oh yeah,
Hey, I'm so and so. This is the check this out. Like who?
Yeah.
Who are you? But it's like
They're
this
developing
kid's
their
working,
brand,
dude.
man.
This kid is working. Like, and that's gonna be everyone in 10 years. Like that's
I think we're already there. That is.
Well, we
everyone.
are.
the
are.
Auburn team straight up had an ICAST booth.
Yeah.
Oh my
2
gosh,
years ago.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Auburn they're like, we're getting a booth at ICAST.
Yep.
And like they're just like
I
putting themselves
avoid
out there.
ICAST like the plague.
I have a weird relationship with ICAST. It falls on my birthday often last
Oh,
couple
wow.
of years, but then like I'm always lamenting going. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to Orlando in July, whatever, and then like all the setup and all this stuff, and then I get there, and then I'm just like so stoked to see everybody that
Yeah.
I don't
I
get
like
to see.
going there, but I hate the amount of money that the industry, I feel, wastes there. Between the dinners and the partying, and then what it costs to be there, I think that it is almost obnoxious, and that money could definitely
it's a face-to-face
be
meeting
spent.
that
It's-
has to happen.
But this is 23. We don't need it.
yeah.
Yeah.
most of
True.
of those
Post-COVID,
deals
yeah.
are already done before you get there these days.
True.
I don't think we wrote an order at ICAST last year. We might have we actually had live. We wrote a couple from international dealers who it's like the only time you get to
You
see
see
them.
'em,
Right.
Yeah.
But like all of our meetings with like the big customers are
Done.
lined up before then.
course.
And like you're arming your sales team with the info long before the show. It has become like in industry kind of just glad handing event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got mixed feelings on it. I ASA I think is a really good organization. I think they do a lot for the sport. I mean they
The data and stuff.
data
yeah.
and then also like people don't understand that they control like the Center for Sport Fishing Policy, which is the
Right.
lobbying arm in DC for
Yep.
fishermen.
Yep.
Like if it wasn't for what ASA does there,
We'd be screwed.
We'd be screwed because there would be all kinds of shitty legislation passed that would be cutting down angler access, and
I
like
agree.
we would probably have lead fishing bans in every state by now if it wasn't for ASA or a federal ban, or we wouldn't be able to keep a red snapper anywhere in the world.
Right.
So they really drive the policy level for anglers, and ICAST is part of how they raise their money
To do that.
fund that infrastructure. So that's the part that like I get and I'm supportive of. That being said, every year like before and after the show, I'm like, God, we're gonna spend how much going, and I'm
It's
just
expensive.
like, it is. I was looking at it recently, and I'm like, man, I really am having a hard time justifying this
Yep.
expense for us, but we're gonna do it because it's like we need to do it. But
Right.
yeah, I think it was weird because there was a lot of people that thought that like COVID was going to kill that show. They're like, all right,
Yeah.
it's never going to come back, and it came back pretty strong last year. I mean, it was well attended. 21 was, there's still a lot of, I think, hesitancy, but last year it was big and well attended, and
Everyone gets sick after it, though.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
even
is- last year was a bad COVID super spreader event.
Yep.
I didn't get it because I stayed my butt in the RV.
One of the buyers from Bass Pro got buried. Some of the Walmart buyers got really sick out of it.
A lot of people. Dude, Zona gets sick every year. He told me this year. You know Zona. He told me this year, this very last year. Or he told me last year. That's it. I'm not going back. He gets sick every single year. Some people's immune system.
I somehow managed the last couple of years to come out unscathed, but
you get it off the. You get it.
You get sick all the
around
time.
Here, yeah.
I get sick at the Safari Club.
Yeah.
The Dallas Safari Club Expo has been my super spreader event. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I've gotten COVID like 4 times in the last 2 years, and
That's
2 of
awesome.
them have been at the Safari Club.
We don't want to keep you all night here. I know
dude,
you don't live too far away from here, but
No.
so you're back in the office tomorrow morning. Like again, House of Outdoors, 45 minutes away or so. What are you cooking up right now? What's exciting? What's new? What's coming down the pipe?
I mean,
for either brand
This is
that you could talk about.
So this is really truly not only is it peak fishing season, but this is peak like get shit done season for the industry, because this is where we're like trying to finalize all of our product information and pricing and spec and put together sell sheets and catalogs and set up information and take that to retailer meetings. So like the next few weeks, the next 2.5 months is going to be meeting with all the big customers, Bass Pro and Academy, and all those people, and just rolling out new products. I mean, we've got I think 3 or 4 new Googan soft plastics we're working on. Some of them will be ready for iCast, some of them won't. We got some other that's bass baits. We got some crappie baits we're working on. We got a ton we're working on with Bass Mafia, as you know.
Yep.
Really, really excited to move that brand forward, man. We've got
one of the new releases, the Doob Tube, the 4-inch Doob Tube today, a green pumpkin. Freaking smashed them today. We weighed like 25 pounds on one of the local lakes over here. It worked so good.
I have not actually had a chance. I fished with it like when it was like first prototype.
Yeah.
And then I don't think I ever fished the revised prototype.
A ribbed tube. Like think about that. It's ribbed for
Bass Pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 inches.
It's
Jeez.
It worked good today.
I'm sorry.
I got
Mom.
almost a 7, a couple 6s.
I'm ready. Like I may be able to sneak out on Friday and to a place that they should be bedding, and
Good.
I think I'm going to bring those white ones and and try to stick one in the face with it.
Nice.
I don't think I've caught. No, I lied. I have caught a bedfish this year. Randomly, they were on beds in February at a tournament I fished earlier this year.
Oh,
but,
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Then I haven't seen one on a bed since then. Those 2 weeks down at that lake in Central Texas, but. No, yeah, I needed to fish more. I have to say I've been like going at least like once a weekend for the last 6 weeks, but I got so eaten up with deer hunting last year, man.
Oh, yeah.
It was like all I did all fall, and
I want to bring it back to the Bass Mafia thing. A lot of people, even no matter how many times we said the swimbait was coming under Bass Mafia. It's like they didn't really like process it. And then so it's come out and everyone's like, wait, okay, so Bass Mafia is doing the bait thing. Like, what do you see where do you see the brand going? Like, and is it doing well? Like the tackle box relaunches, they were all redone. Then the swim bait came out. Like, has the response been what you expected?
yeah, it's been phenomenal. So much to the point that like we need to buy more. We're to keep up. We actually, we've been keeping up with demand. We did invest pretty heavily in inventory. Like the swim bait's been awesome. Storage boxes have done great. I mean, really, that brand it's always been like super high quality, right? So like since inception, I mean, they created the market for high end storage. Like nobody was buying a $30 tackle tray, 3700 tray did not exist before Bass Mafia. They created the market for high quality storage. Pure Fishing and others have since invested a ton of money in research and R&D and promotional dollars into high-end storage. So I think it's going to be tough for us to compete in high-end storage going forward. Like, we're going to make the right cool storage things, but we're not going to like
with
chase
the history to back it up.
Yeah, we're not going to chase like every niche box. Like, here's a box for your A-rigs, and here's I think that we probably got a little too wide in the different storage boxes before. So we've kind of brought it back to like really core stuff, and then I mean ultimately like we're gonna just tackle various bait categories, kind of like one at a time. And swim bait was the first thing we started on. We're working on a really cool jerk bait with DC, working on a top water with you, working on various swim baits.
I don't think we mentioned yet the other thing we're working on is that there's actually an email in my inbox right now that I didn't look at. But it's flashy, it's shiny.
Yeah,
we'll just say that
thing's gonna be
shiny.
Awesome as well.
And I've caught a lot of big bass on that in the past, and that thing's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
And thank you, by the way, for pushing that through again.
Yeah, no, that's so I mean, really, like, I mean, I've got like probably like 3 to 5 years worth of ideas of stuff to do with the brand. It's just like the time and the money and like it's all super capital intensive, like between like molds and inventory, and like we have to buy it before the retailers even commit to it a lot of times. So
a lot of people don't realize that too. There's a lot invested on the brand and manufacturer side that you guys don't even
I mean, between the R&D expense and sampling and
expensive.
molds and people and
Yep.
and then like literally like to deliver to like big retailer schedules, you're often having to make decisions to buy a bunch of stuff before they've ever committed.
It's almost like you're set up for failure, but you got to buy your way out of it and make it happen. Like it's really
and
the odds.
The margin
are
for error is not very big because it's like if you don't buy enough, then like maybe 3 big retailers put that bait in, and then you run out like early in the season, and then that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. Or you buy a bunch, and then only this guy took it, and then you're like, how do I sell these other tens of thousands?
That's why I see Bass Mafia like with the right guys behind it. Like you can't fail. Like you're the best guys are on.
You can
DC's
fail.
Well, okay.
Titanic, you can always.
She
fail.
says that all the time. The Titanic song. Well, DC with the jerk bait. I mean, there's no better guy, you know, and Scott Martin, his input on things, and MDJ, and having the right guys behind it definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean,
I think get ahead.
I think we've proven so far that like we're gonna sell baits in these brands. We're gonna make really good baits, and we're gonna sell really good baits.
Heck yeah, dude.
And
I'm all about that.
And we aren't like, business is business. You got to bring products to life. You got to sell stuff, but like we're not gonna rush anything to market.
No.
Like I think somebody was throwing shade at us recently for rushing stuff to market or whatever, but like we had been working on that first iteration for a while. You helped us come in, like finish the unrigged version, right? The unloaded version. Your loaded version was kind of start from scratch, start from square one. Like we're doing our thing. Yep. And like
it's gotta be right.
Yeah. Like I've probably been like for like 3 months, been like, all right, man, let's do it. Let's do it. And like, but then like, I actually went out and spent some time with the bait, went and spent some time with you with the bait. We're like, okay, we still got tweaks we got to do, and like we're gonna get it right. And like I've been getting blown up with like text messages and emails from retailers like, hey, when is this thing coming? And I'm like, it'll be later this year. Like it's coming. It'll be there in time for people to buy it. But we're gonna get it right, and I think we're pretty close to pulling the trigger. And you've caught fish on the ones we've got, and like part of prototyping is like, it's never like you get it right on the first one or the second one, and sometimes it's like 8 or 9. Sometimes it's like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but it's just and that's a tough thing to explain a lot of times to my bosses, like my board. They're like, when are we going to be ready to sell that bait? And I'm like, when the bait's ready. But
what's the retailer response been? Because Bass Mafia, you guys rebranded it, and I know, just I talk with a lot of retailers. I have relationships from past things, and they would talk about Bass Mafia had gotten stale, and then you guys have come in. So has it the relaunch and the changes, have they been very responsive and happy?
Yeah, they from the people who've partnered with us on it, it's been good. And the brand, it did. I think it did get a little stale, and that's no detriment to the previous owners. Like those dudes were awesome dudes, and Bart, who's a friend of mine, like Bart got cancer bad, and like he just basically had to focus on getting healthy, and like so they weren't able to innovate for a few years. And like at that same time, Pure came in with Edge, right? And they have invested millions of dollars in both, I'm sure, molds and marketing, and just like thrown so much dollars at Edge, right? Well, I guess Plano came out with Edge, and then Pure bought Plano, but anyway, just a ton of dollars behind that category. So it was like the perfect storm of like, I like when I went to Bass Pro last year and met with the storage buyer, he was like, man, I am so glad you guys came in here with some new stuff. He's like, because I was probably ready to like ditch this brand. He's like, because there hadn't been anything exciting in a few years. And so we were able to breathe some life into that relationship. And, you know, my friends at Tackle Warehouse, great dudes, love those guys. Like, they've been super supportive of the Bass Mafia brand. We're actually doing a big boat giveaway with them later this year, which is going to be cool. There's a lot of support behind it, and that brand is really, really strong at the independent channel too. Like independent retailers, like I think that's kind of where it was born, was in kind of mom and pop tackle shops, and we got our reps out there hustling it and selling it to the independent channel. And I think that's going to be like a big part of that brand. But I mean the trajectory is really good, and I think we've got a ton of upside for that brand.
Awesome.
And you guys are a big part of that. And I mean, I'm excited to do some of the like more niche stuff, like, but it's like niche stuff that we'll be able to sell to the masses, you know.
I just know, so like being involved with the Bass Mafia brand, I just know Rob Turkla keeps a very close eye on it, and when he tells you, "Good job, dude! Like you're killing it. You guys are killing it." That's saying something, because that guy's very hard to please.
I'm not sure he's ever told us he's proud until this one bait did good, and he was like 2 days in a row, "I'm proud. I'm proud."
So with that, Trey, if you don't have anything else, I'm gonna ask Phil. I'm gonna ask Trey to give us some life advice if you don't have anything else.
This is him saying he wants to go to bed. That's what this is. I can see it on his face.
Oh, life advice, man. I mean, the biggest thing I've learned in life is just try to be a good person, you know, and treat people with respect. And like I take that to
it's so simple, but it means different things to different people, like that.
Man. I mean, you know, I just try to be a good dude.
Yeah.
And like my Zen master now is Rackley. Like Rackley's like super Zen.
He
he's
is.
Like
He really is.
He's like the Zen redneck.
He
you
is.
Know? Just out there living in the woods with his chickens and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like he
building
just,
bows and
like,
arrows.
I mean, like I just like I look at him and I'm like, man, if everybody in the world could live their life like LFG, this would be a good place.
Yep.
And that's just what I try to be like my boy LFG, you know. But yeah,
advice.
and then I think just go out and catch a bunch of bass, fish more.
Love
and that's
it.
what I'm like. My advice to myself is I'm gonna fish more, because fishing makes me happy, man.
Yep, fishing
And
makes
tinkering with baits.
Fishing makes our world go round.
Yeah.
Trey, you, people viewing through the camera right there. This is just like you said, it's a small industry, but it's a big family.
Oh yeah, dude. It's and it's like, to your point, it is a big family, and like I've worked with so many people that we were really good friends and we worked together at this brand, and then next thing I know, they're like working at like they're with like the biggest competitor.
I know
of
it.
mine.
Isn't that weird?
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. We're still friends though.
Sure.
You know, like that's
we
not
can
going to
still
change.
pound fish.
And that's how
walking
you
through
really know when
Yes.
you are friends with
Yes.
somebody is
Right. You can make a move.
You
and
no
Yep.
longer work together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's like
Yep.
that's the big thing. Like when I left Shimano,
Yep.
it's like you really find out who your friends
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Because like you're like, oh, that guy still wants to be my buddy,
Yeah.
even though I'm not his hookup to
The
get
hat
like
you're
really
wearing-
cool shit.
Yeah,
You know,
the
like,
hat you're wearing
reels,
doesn't matter.
you know?
Your badge doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you're still friends.
Yeah,
right?
so it's like, and those are like, you know, like, oh yeah, like these are real dudes, and this industry is full of them. Like, I mean, this industry is full of like really good people. I know like bass fishing does like sometimes it feels really toxic, like on socials
Sure.
and like meme accounts like that,
Yeah.
like decide
yeah.
they want to like just pick on
Just blow
me
you
or
up.
you,
Yeah,
or like
sure.
I think the same meme account rips you and me and
Oh
him on
yeah,
constantly,
I love
but,
it. Yeah.
I do that meme account. I know what you're talking about. It's not there, and I'm concerned. I want it to come back. I enjoy.
Oh my god.
I
They
enjoy
probably
a good
blocked
meme
us all.
account.
I don't know.
I don't know. I enjoy a good meme account. Everyone thinks I am them, and I'm like, no, but I'm a fan of a couple of them.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, be a good person.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Be a good person. Be a good dude. Fishing industry is small. We learned a lot about you, Trey. We learned a lot about the Googan, House of Outdoors, the Googan brand, the Bass Mafia brand. We appreciate you being on, and we're gonna get you on our way, and we'll see you in the office here.
Yes, sir.
Over the next couple of days.
Good
So,
luck in my old stomping grounds over there in South Carolina.
Yep, got a couple back-to-backs over there, so I'll crush them
That'll
for
be
you.
fun.
Swimbait Bites should play. So thank you for coming on, dude.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Appreciate it,
it.
dude.
Thank you.
We're out.
Take it easy.